pointed out to you guys, Marge, who is stood up in front of you there, she is the dominant female, so she is in charge of everybody within the mob. Meerkat society is a matriarchal society, so it is always a dominant female. She can choose a dominant male if she sees fit, but otherwise she will quite happily rule as a queen and have command over everybody. So what Marge says goes, basically. She will assign jobs for the other meerkats within the mob. So some of them will be foragers, some of them will be on sentry duty throughout the day, which is when they're standing high up on their hind legs and scanning the skies and deserts for any signs of danger. And some of them would be babysitters for if she ever had any pups. Being the dominant female, Marge is the only female allowed to breed. So she reserves all of the breeding rights within the group. And if any of the others did try to breed, they'd be kicked out or possibly even killed. So it is a very savage society with meerkats. It's very, very strict, and they have lots of social rules to adhere to. But enough waiting for them now. I've made them wait long enough, so I'm going to give them a little bit of their lunchtime scatter feed now. But primarily, these guys are insectivores, which means the bulk of their diet comes from insects. So we have got for them today these pellets, which are cricket pellets. So crushed up crickets and nutrients and minerals and stuff like that in those, and a bit of veg as well to supplement along with that. And they will have their insect live feed later on today, so towards the end of the day they'll have a live scatter of most likely crickets or locusts to get them a good bit of foraging and hunting behaviour. Now these guys out in the wild, they eat a variety of different insects, but some of their favourite food has a pretty nasty sting in the tail, and they absolutely love scorpions. So scorpions are some of their favourite food to eat, and they are really, really good at tackling scorpions in the wild. So you might think meerkats are quite small. A scorpion would be quite a big predator to something like a meerkat, but because they've got that pretty powerful sting. And this is a technique that is passed down through the generations. So older meerkats will teach the youngsters how to hunt for scorpions. They will first bring them a dead scorpion, see if they can crack through that, get to the good stuff inside. And then eventually they start making it a little bit harder and a little bit harder each time. So then they bring them a live scorpion that has already had its stinger removed, so there's no threat there to the pup. And then eventually they will bring them a full scorpion with stinger and all, and just monitor them, make sure they don't get into any difficulty when they're trying to eat that. But that is a great meal for a meerkat. It's full of juicy stuff. And being a desert animal, you would think that meerkats would need additional water in their diet, living in a very dry area, but they get all of the water that they need from the insects that they consume. So all of their water comes from their food. It's very rare that you would see a meerkat drinking. They get most of that moisture from the food that they eat. So they also love things like mealworms, big centipede thing, and robins apparently. If robins land in there, they wouldn't be the first time. They are pretty mean. I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the stuff they've done in a minute. But these guys here then, so they live in the desert, all of these adaptations, I've spoken to you about a few of them, but they have got some other superpowers, these guys. So if you've noticed the eyes of the meerkat, you'll see that they've got that dark circular patch around each eye, and that is their own pair of built-in sunglasses, believe it or not. So living in Africa, you get quite a lot of glare from the sun, and vision is the most developed sense for any meerkat, so they rely very, very heavily on their eyesight. They've actually got horizontal pupils instead of like our pupils. That mean they can get much wider vision range when they are scanning the skies and horizons for any signs of danger. So they've got to protect their eyes, and that's where that dark patch comes in. Helps reduce that glare, helps them see nice and far when they're on the lookout for food or for predators. And they've also got, and this is the word of the day for you, what is called a nictitating membrane. And this is a membrane that closes over their eye when they're digging, because they do spend a lot of their time digging. You'll see they've got very, very long claws, very well suited for digging tunnels and chambers. And when they're digging, there's a lot of sand going absolutely everywhere. So to keep their eyes nice and safe, that membrane will close over as they are digging to make sure they can still see where they're going, but it stops any sand getting into their eyes. And their ears as well, if you see their ears are very, very flat to the skull, and they can fully close them up as well when they're digging. So their ears can close up, stop any sand getting in there as well. So very important adaptations when you spend a lot of time digging around. But when they are faced with a predator in the wild, so let's say a snake, quite a common predator of meerkats, what meerkats will do is they'll make an alarm call to signify that there is a snake in the area. They've got about 10 different alarm calls that they will use for different animals, different threats. And when they make that call, all the mob will form together. They will make a circle around the snake, and they stick their tails up really, really high. So it makes them appear like they are one singular animal moving in formation around the snake to try and intimidate it a little bit. And these guys, being a member of the mongoose family, do have an extra superpower, and that is a natural immunity to snake venom. So these guys, it's still been quite heavily researched at the moment, just how far that venom immunity goes. But for a lot of species of snake, these guys are immune, or mostly immune, to a lot of their venom, which is very, very handy when some of your main predators are venomous snakes in the wild. So that's a very good tactic. They will also, if there's an aerial predator, they will make an alarm call, and they will dart away nice and quickly down bolt holes. So across their enclosure here, you'll see lots and lots of little holes dotted about here and there, and these are their bolt holes. So if they sense danger from above, they will make the call, and everybody darts underground very, very quickly, hiding away, making sure they're not going to get eaten by any aerial birds. So very impressive, very clever. They all work together. It's a really complex society with meerkats, and they all have their role and their job to do. Now, meerkats are a least concern animal, which is good. It means we are not too worried about their numbers in the wild, but there are still plenty of threats that face these guys, and particularly at the moment, the pet trade is a bit of an awful one. And this is no good for a meerkat, really, and I'm going to tell you why. So normally, when we ask people to describe the meerkats, we get a school group in, we say, what words would you use to describe a meerkat? Usually we get cute, we get fluffy, we get adorable, all of those. And I like to propose a few different words that we use here to describe the meerkats. And that would be aggressive, destructive, social, and stinky. So all of these are for good reason. So aggressive being the first one. These guys, they're not domesticated in any way whatsoever, so they are still a wild animal. We can go in with them here when we leave them be. We don't interrupt their day or anything like that, and they're quite content for us to just mill about, cleaning them out and things like that. But as soon as you put one in a stressful environment, so if you take one away from the mob and you've got it as a pet and you're trying to pet it, that's going to lead to a lot of aggression. And these guys have got really, really sharp teeth and very, very sharp claws, and they can do some real damage. Very, very nasty meerkat bites.